Leora had always been careful about first impressions. Today was no different. She stood in front of the mirror in her small apartment, brushing her dark hair and adjusting the smart fabric dress she had chosen. The dress was soft and comfortable, yet it gave her a feeling of elegance. Her reflection stared back at her, calm, yet nervous. For Leora, today was important, not just another day. Today was her first blind date. She had been invited by a friend who thought it would be fun for her to meet someone new. Leora had agreed, mostly out of curiosity. Social situations had always been tricky for her, because she was deaf. She communicated fluently through sign language and had learned to read lips, but the world was not always patient. Still, she wanted to try. Maybe, just maybe, someone would see her for who she truly was. The restaurant was a modern place with floating light panels and soft hums from robotic waiters. It smelled of fresh herbs and warm bread. Leora entered, feeling the gentle vibrations of her footsteps on the polished floor. She spotted a man waving from a table near the window. He smiled, and she returned it politely. "Hello," she signed silently, remembering to keep her movements smooth. She noticed he blinked slowly, uncertain. Leora realized immediately that he did not know sign language. "Hi," he said awkwardly, his voice too loud for her. Leora read his lips carefully. I wasn't expecting you to be, well." He hesitated, glancing at her hands. Leora smiled politely but kept her hands in her lap. She could feel her heart beating faster. It wasn't unusual for people to react awkwardly when they first saw her using sign language, but she hoped today would be different. The date began with small talk. He asked about her work, and she signed her answers slowly, explaining her job as a robotics designer. She had been working on a project that helped translate sign language into voice and vice versa, a project she was deeply proud of. He listened, nodding occasionally, but she could tell he was distracted. He glanced around the restaurant, checking his hollow watch. Leora felt a familiar tension. This happened often. People were interested in her words at first, but the moment they realized she was deaf, their attention wavered. I'm not sure this is, working," he finally said, breaking the silence. Leora's chest tightened. She had anticipated disappointment, but hearing it spoken aloud still hurt. "You mean," she started signing, but he interrupted. "I mean, I'm not ready for this," he said. He looked embarrassed, avoiding her eyes. Sadness because she had hoped. Relief because now she did not have to pretend the date was going well. "I understand," she signed carefully, keeping her hands steady. "Thank you for being honest." He nodded, muttered something incoherent, and left. Leora watched him go, the empty seat across from her suddenly feeling enormous. She felt the familiar sting of rejection, but also the quiet determination that had always been part of her. She would not let one person's discomfort define her worth. After leaving the restaurant, she wandered through the city streets. The city was alive, with holographic advertisements, floating vehicles, and the distant hum of spaceport shuttles. Leora's fingers brushed against the cool metal railings as she walked. She liked walking in the evenings. It gave her space to think, to breathe, to process the world in her own rhythm. Her thoughts wandered to her work. The communication device she was developing could bridge gaps, not just for the deaf, but for anyone who struggled to connect. She imagined people across planets learning to understand each other in ways that went beyond spoken words. A smile crept across her face. Maybe the world wasn't ready for her yet, but that didn't matter. As she passed through a marketplace of floating stalls and glowing signs, she noticed a crowd gathered around a demonstration. Curious, she moved closer. A young inventor was showing a small robot that could mimic human expressions and gestures. The crowd laughed and clapped. The inventor noticed her and waved, inviting her to try the controls. Hello, he signed with a confident smile. Leora's eyes widened in surprise. He knew sign language. Yes, she signed back, stepping closer. His robot responded to her hand movements, mimicking her signs with mechanical precision. Leora felt a spark of excitement she hadn't felt all evening. You're very skilled, he signed, his fingers moving smoothly. Not many can control the robot like that on the first try. Thank you, she signed, feeling a warmth in her chest. Here was someone who didn't see her as limited or strange. He saw her ability, her potential. They spent the next hour experimenting with the robot, laughing silently and exchanging ideas. For the first time that night, Leora felt seen. She realized that while her date had rejected her, this stranger recognized her for what she truly was, a creative mind with unique talents. When the crowd dispersed, the young inventor introduced himself. I'm Kale, he signed. I think the world needs more people like you. People who can create, who can imagine. Don't let anyone make you feel less than that. Leora's eyes glistened. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. She nodded slowly, feeling a strange mix of hope and relief. Maybe the blind date rejection wasn't the end. Maybe it was just the beginning of something different, something better. She walked home that night, her steps light. The city lights reflected off her glasses, creating tiny constellations around her. She thought about her future, about projects and ideas waiting to be realized. The disappointment from the restaurant felt smaller now, almost like a shadow that would fade in time. Leora knew one thing for certain. She would not change herself to fit someone else's expectations. Her mind, her hands, her creativity, that was her power. And somewhere in the vast city, maybe even across planets, there were people who would recognize that. As she reached her apartment, she paused at the window. The stars above twinkled faintly, distant, yet undeniable. She took a deep breath, letting the calm wash over her. Rejection had stung tonight, yes, but it had also reminded her of something important. Being herself was not only enough, it was extraordinary. And for the first time in a long while, Leora felt the quiet thrill of anticipation. And she would meet them as she always had, strong, creative, and unapologetically herself. With that thought, she turned off the lights, her mind buzzing with possibilities. The city slept, but Leora dreamed not of fitting in, but of standing out. She dreamed of making a mark, of showing the world what someone who was different, someone like her, could truly do. And somewhere, in the vast, humming city of lights and machines, a faint signal pulsed a promise that her uniqueness was not a barrier, but a bridge to the future. The next morning, Leora woke to the soft hum of her apartment. Sunlight spilled through the windows, painting the walls with a warm glow. She had barely slept, her mind alive with thoughts of last night. Kyle. His smile, his understanding, the way he had seen her for who she truly was, it was different from anything she had felt before. She had tried to imagine the moment in her head 100 times. Walking past him, watching him manipulate the little robot, seeing the joy on his face when the machine responded to her hands. Leora realized she had been craving connection, not just any connection, but one where her mind mattered more than her limitations. After breakfast, she returned to her workshop. Her small apartment doubled as her studio, filled with blueprints, circuit boards, and small mechanical parts. Leora loved building things. She loved giving life to ideas that existed only in her imagination. Today, however, her focus was different. She wanted to reach out to Kale. She tapped her fingers across her comm device, composing a message. Not just a simple hello, but something that conveyed her curiosity, her admiration, her hope to learn more from him. Finally satisfied, she sent it. Within minutes, a reply appeared. Meet me at the marketplace again. I have something to show you. Her heart raced. She changed quickly, choosing something comfortable but neat. She wanted to feel confident, not self-conscious. As she walked through the city streets, her steps were lighter than usual. The neon signs shimmered, the air buzzed with the energy of daily life, and she felt alive. At the marketplace, Kale was waiting near the same demonstration booth as yesterday. He waved when he saw her, and she smiled back. Today, he was ready with something new. A small, sleek device with a glowing interface. This, Kale signed, is my latest project. It can detect gestures and convert them into voice for anyone. But I think it could be better if you help me. Leora's eyes widened. He wanted her input. Not because of politeness, not because of obligation, but because he genuinely valued her mind. She nodded eagerly. Together, they examined the device. Leora noticed small flaws. The sensitivity was uneven, and some gestures weren't recognized accurately. She suggested changes in her precise, methodical way, her hands moving confidently. Kale listened carefully, nodding, making notes, and adjusting the settings. For hours, they worked side by side. Neither seemed to notice the crowd that formed, nor the other vendors. Time flowed differently when they collaborated. Leora felt a sense of belonging she had never known in social gatherings or blind dates. Here, her talent was not just noticed, it was essential. You have a gift, Kyle signed during a short pause. Most people would have looked at this device and followed instructions. You see the possibilities. You see what it can be. Leora felt a warm glow. Compliments were rare in her world, and recognition even rarer. She tried to smile, but words failed her. Instead, she signed back, slowly, "Thank you. It means a lot." Kale's eyes sparkled. The world often misunderstands people who are different. But people like you change the world without even trying. She paused, thinking. All her life, she had felt pushed aside, underestimated, even ignored. But Kale's words were different. They did not pity her, nor did they try to diminish her abilities. They acknowledged her power. For the first time, Leora felt a clear sense of purpose beyond herself. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the marketplace with a golden light, Kale demonstrated how the device could allow a deaf person to communicate with a non-signing person instantly. Leora watched, fascinated, as the gestures she made were converted into clear, understandable words. "This is amazing," she signed. "It could help so many people." Kale smiled. "I thought you might say that. That's why I needed your insight. You see potential where others see problems." Their collaboration became natural. Leora realized she had been craving this, not just the creation, but the recognition of her mind. She had always thought her value was limited to being polite, patient, or quiet. But here, with KL, she was challenged, inspired, and celebrated. As evening fell, they packed up the device and began walking toward the exit of the marketplace. Leora noticed the way the city looked at night. Glowing advertisements reflected in puddles, floating vehicles moving silently, people laughing and talking. Yet she was aware of only one presence beside her. KL. "You know," he signed thoughtfully, "most people will never understand you. They might even reject you like your date last night." He hesitated, searching her face. "But someone will. And that someone will see your uniqueness as, well, as extraordinary." Leora's chest tightened. He wasn't just speaking about her abilities. He was speaking about her whole self, her mind, her heart, her determination. A warmth spread through her, stronger than anything she had felt after polite compliments or casual recognition. "Kale," she signed carefully. "I thank you for seeing me." He paused, his expression serious, then smiled gently. I think the world doesn't see enough people like you. People who are different, who think differently. But I see you, Leora. And I think, maybe together we could do more than we ever imagined. They reached the edge of the marketplace. The city lights reflected in her eyes, tiny mirrors of excitement and possibility. Leora felt a new energy rising inside her. For the first time, rejection from a blind date didn't sting. It felt like a stepping stone, a nudge toward something bigger. Over the next few days, their collaboration deepened. They spent long hours refining the device, testing it, adjusting its programming. Leora discovered strengths she had never fully appreciated in herself. Her ability to visualize patterns, her precise hand movements, her patience, everything mattered here. Kale treated every idea she suggested seriously, sometimes adjusting his own concepts to fit hers. One evening, as they tested the device in a quiet room, Kale paused and looked at her. Leora, I've worked with many engineers, many inventors, many brilliant minds. But you're different. You don't just fix problems. You imagine solutions that no one else can. That's rare. Quote, we have to be, Creasy's saying. We have to be. I don't just fix problems that work. Leora blushed slightly, not used to hearing her abilities described with such admiration. I just do what I love, she signed, unsure how to respond. That's what makes it so special. Kale signed back. You love what you do, and the world gains from it. People like you make life better, not just for some, but for everyone. Leora felt a rush of hope. She realized something important. Her uniqueness was not a burden. It was her gift. And someone who truly understood, was helping her see it. As the night grew quiet, Leora packed up her tools and prepared to leave. Kale watched her, a thoughtful expression on his face. Don't ever doubt yourself, he signed gently. You're meant to make a difference. And I think you will. Walking home, Leora's steps were light. The city felt different now, not because it had changed, but because she had. The world had not rejected her completely. It had just been waiting for someone to recognize her potential. And now, she had. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about Kale and the device they were building together. She imagined the people it could help, the connections it could create. A smile spread across her face. She felt a quiet thrill, a sense of purpose that went beyond herself, beyond the sadness of yesterday's rejection. Tomorrow, she knew, would bring more challenges. But it would also bring more opportunities. Opportunities to create, to connect, to show the world what someone who was different, someone like her, could truly achieve. And for the first time in a long while, Leora felt that the world was not something to fear, but something to explore. With Kale at her side, she knew she could reach further than she had ever imagined. The morning sun spilled into Leora's workshop, casting a warm glow on scattered blueprints and tools. Today was different. The device she and Kale had been working on, the gesture-to-voice translator, was almost ready for its first public demonstration. Leora felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She adjusted her hair and brushed off her hands, her fingers still tingling from yesterday's adjustments. Every circuit, every line of code, every tiny mechanical joint reflected her effort and creativity. Kale arrived shortly after, carrying a small toolkit and a tablet filled with calculations. Morning, he signed with a bright smile. Ready to show the world what we've made? Leora nodded, her lips curving into a small smile. They set up the device in a crowded city square, surrounded by curious onlookers. People of all ages, humans and aliens alike, gathered to see the new invention. Leora felt her heart beat faster. She had never been in the spotlight before, and the attention was both thrilling and intimidating. Kyle turned to her. Don't worry, he signed gently. They will see your skill, not your differences. Just show them what it can do. Taking a deep breath, Leora stepped forward. She raised her hands, making a series of gestures. The device responded perfectly, converting each motion into clear, audible words that echoed across the square. The crowd gasped. Some clapped, some whispered excitedly. A few children tried copying her gestures, giggling as the device repeated their words. Leora felt a rush of pride. Her ideas, her hands, her mind, they were making a real difference. See? Leora smiled, a warmth spreading in her chest. She realized something she had not fully accepted before. Her value was not measured by what others expected, but by what she could create, by the difference she could make. As the day went on, people came forward to test the device. Teachers, shopkeepers, travelers from distant planets, they all tried it, fascinated by how easily it translated gestures into speech. Leora guided them patiently, adjusting the sensitivity and offering tips. She could see the excitement in their eyes, the way their faces lit up when they realized communication barriers could be broken. KL worked alongside her, complementing her skills. While Leora focused on gestures and programming, KL handled calibration and system adjustments. They were a team, and their collaboration drew admiration from the crowd. A journalist approached, her holo camera ready. "This is incredible," she said, speaking aloud while Leora read her lips. "Who came up with this idea?" Leora hesitated. Should she say she designed it? Or should she include KL? In the end, she signed a quick explanation to KL, who smiled and nodded. Then she spoke. "We created it together. KL helped refine the system, but the gestures and programming are mine." The journalist's eyes widened. "Impressive. You must be very talented. What inspired you?" Leora signed quickly, explaining her desire to help people communicate, to make the world more inclusive. KL translated the signs for the journalist, carefully preserving Leora's words. The journalist nodded enthusiastically, already imagining the story she would write. By afternoon, the demonstration was over, but the excitement lingered. People approached Leora and KL, asking questions, offering suggestions, and praising their work. Leora's cheeks were flushed with happiness. She had never felt so recognized before, so valued. As they packed up, KL turned to her. "Leora, look at what you've done. People see your brilliance now. Not because they have to, but because it's impossible to ignore." Leora felt a lump in her throat. She had spent so much of her life feeling invisible, underestimated, even ignored. And yet here, in the heart of the city, her ideas, her creativity, her uniqueness, everything was celebrated. Walking back to their workshop, Leora reflected on her journey. Just a few days ago, she had been rejected on a blind date, made to feel less than because of her deafness. Today, she was a creator, a problem solver, a person whose talents mattered. The contrast was astonishing. Kale glanced at her. "You know," he signed, "the world is full of people who judge too quickly. But people like you show them a different way. You show them that being different isn't a weakness. It's strength." Leora nodded. Strength. She had always been resilient, but she had never fully recognized the power in her differences. Kale's words made her see herself in a new light. Back at the workshop, they continued refining the device. Leora suggested ways to expand its capabilities, adding multiple languages, improving responsiveness, making it smaller and portable. Kale listened, implementing her ideas with care. Together, they transformed the device from a simple translator into a tool that could change lives. Late in the evening, they took a break. Leora leaned back in her chair, watching the city lights flicker outside. KL handed her a cup of tea. "You know," he signed quietly, "I think you've underestimated yourself all this time. You're not just capable, you're extraordinary. People like you, they don't come along often. Leora smiled softly. I've always wanted to help, she signed. I just didn't know how, or if anyone would notice. Kale reached out and tapped her shoulder gently. I noticed. And now, so will the world. You're meant to create, to inspire, to lead in ways most people can't even imagine. Leora felt a wave of gratitude. For the first time, she understood that her uniqueness was not a limitation, but a gift. Her deftness, her patience, her precise mind, they were all part of what made her remarkable. She wasn't just building a device. She was building a bridge between worlds, between people, between abilities. Over the next few days, their work gained attention from educators, scientists, and innovators. Requests poured in from other cities and even other planets to replicate the device. Leora felt a sense of purpose that she had never known. Her talent mattered, and it was making a real difference. One evening, as they reviewed plans for the next version of the device, KL signed thoughtfully. Leora, many people settle for being ordinary because it's easier. They hide their differences, their talents, but you embrace them, and that's why you'll go further than anyone expects. Leora paused, considering his words. She realized he was right. She had always tried to fit in, to be quiet, to avoid attention. But now, she saw that her differences were her strength. She didn't need to fit a mold, she needed to shape the world around her abilities. Thank you, she signed softly. For believing in me. Kale smiled. It's easy to believe in someone like you. People like you don't just succeed, they inspire others to do the same. That night, as Leora lay in bed, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a rejected blind date to creating something extraordinary, she had discovered her true value. She was not defined by what others thought of her, but by what she could imagine, create, and achieve. And for the first time, she felt completely seen. Not for her deafness, not for her polite behavior, not for trying to fit in, but for who she truly was. Intelligent, creative, determined, and uniquely powerful. Tomorrow would bring more work, more challenges, and more opportunities. But Leora was ready. She had Kael by her side, a partner who understood her abilities and celebrated them. And together, they would continue to show the world that being different was not just acceptable, it was extraordinary. As the city lights faded into the quiet hum of night, Leora closed her eyes with a sense of calm. She had discovered something important. Her uniqueness was not a burden. It was her gift. And in sharing it, she could inspire, help, and change the world. The city was alive with light and movement as Leora walked toward the workshop, her mind buzzing with ideas. Today was not just another day of testing the gesture-to-voice translator. Today, they were presenting it to the Interstellar Communication Council, a group of educators, scientists, and innovators from multiple planets. Leora adjusted her sleeves and smoothed her hair, feeling a mixture of excitement and nerves. The device had already proven itself in the city square and through online demonstrations, but presenting it to such an important audience was a new challenge. Kale met her at the entrance, carrying the device carefully. Ready? He signed with a confident smile. Leora nodded. The council chamber was vast, with floating panels showing translations in dozens of languages. Representatives from distant planets sat in rows, their expressions curious but polite. Some had never seen a human deaf person present a technology device, and others had never considered the importance of gestures in communication. As Leora and Kael set up the device, she felt her pulse quicken. She remembered the blind date that had rejected her just a week ago. The memory was painful, yes, but it no longer carried the weight it once did. That rejection had pushed her toward this moment, toward Kael, toward the realization that her uniqueness was a gift. Kale handed her the control tablet. "You lead," he signed. "I'll assist." Leora took a deep breath. She began with simple gestures, showing how the device converted her movements into clear speech. The council members leaned forward, fascinated. Then she demonstrated more complex gestures, translating entire sentences into multiple languages. The room was quiet, absorbed by the device and the precision of her movements. One member raised a question aloud. How could this device be used across different species, with varying gestures and cultural meanings? Leora signed confidently, explaining how the device could be calibrated for each language and culture, even for non-human gestures. Kale assisted by adjusting the settings live, showing the device's flexibility. The council murmured in approval. Leora felt a surge of pride. This was more than just a presentation. It was recognition of her abilities, her creativity, her value. After the demonstration, the council members began asking questions, offering ideas for collaboration, and inviting her and Kyle to expand the project across other planets. Leora answered each question carefully, her confidence growing with every interaction. She realized she had come a long way in just a few days, from a woman overlooked on a blind date to a recognized inventor capable of making an interstellar impact. As the meeting ended, one council member, a wise-looking alien with soft, glowing eyes, approached Leora. "You have a rare gift," they said through a translator. "Not only your skill but your vision. You see connection where others see obstacles. That is invaluable." Leora smiled, signing quickly in gratitude. The words, though simple, carried the weight of years of doubt and uncertainty. She had been underestimated for so long, but now her uniqueness was celebrated. After leaving the council chamber, Kale and Leora walked through the city streets. The lights reflected in puddles from a recent rain, creating tiny mirrors of color that danced with each step. Leora felt light, almost floating. "You know," Kale signed thoughtfully, "the world will always have people who misunderstand you. But there will also be people who see you, people who value your uniqueness. And together, we can show them that differences are strengths." Leora's lips curved into a smile. She realized how much she had grown not just in skill, but in self-confidence. She had learned that her deafness, her patience, her creativity, they were not limitations. They were what made her extraordinary. They returned to the workshop, where plans for expanding the device waited. Schools, hospitals, interplanetary communication centers, they all wanted the technology. Leora's mind raced with ideas, improvements, and possibilities. Kyle watched her with admiration. "You've changed so much in a short time," he signed. "You've always had the ability, but now the world sees it too." I just wanted to make a difference," Leora signed back. "They noticed," Kale signed gently, "and they will continue to notice. People like you don't just create devices. You inspire others to believe in what they can do, even when the world doubts them." Days turned into weeks, and the device became a standard tool for communication across multiple planets. Leora and Kyle worked tirelessly, improving its functions and sharing it with educators, diplomats, and explorers. Each success reinforced Leora's belief in herself. She was not defined by past rejections, but by what she could imagine, build, and share with the world. One evening, after a long day of testing a new version of the device, Kale turned to Leora. "Do you realize," he signed, "that you've inspired more people in a week than most do in a lifetime?" Leora laughed softly, a sound of pure joy. I never thought I could make such a difference," she signed. "I just wanted to do what I love. That's exactly it," Kale signed. "Your love for what you do makes it extraordinary, and I'm glad I get to be part of it with you." They shared a quiet moment, standing side by side, looking out at the glowing city. For the first time, Leora felt truly seen, not for trying to fit in, not for being polite or quiet, but for being herself. Weeks later, they attended a ceremony where the device was officially recognized for its innovation and social impact. Leora stood at the podium, speaking confidently through the translator, showing the world how gestures, creativity, and determination could bridge any gap. The crowd applauded. Leora's heart swelled. She remembered the rejection from the blind date, the feelings of doubt, the fear that she might never find someone who understood her. And now, here she was, recognized, celebrated, and connected with someone who valued her for who she truly was. After the ceremony, Kale slipped his hand into hers. He signed softly. "You're not just an inventor, Leora. You're extraordinary. And I hope you know, the world isn't the only thing you've changed. You've changed me too." Leora felt warmth spread through her chest. "And you've changed me," she signed back. "You helped me see that being different is a strength, not a weakness." Together, they walked back through the city, their steps in sync, their minds alive with plans for the future. Leora knew there would be more challenges ahead, more obstacles to overcome, and more people who might not understand her. But she also knew this: she was not alone. With Kale by her side, she could face anything. Her mind, her hands, her creativity, they were powerful, and together they could change the world. As they reached their workshop, Leora paused and looked up at the stars. The city buzzed below, but above them, the universe stretched wide and endless. She felt a thrill of possibility, a sense of hope, and a quiet confidence that the future was hers to shape. And somewhere in that vast expanse of light and life, Leora understood the truth she had been discovering all along. Being different was not something to hide. It was something to celebrate, something to share, something that could inspire everyone around her. Kale squeezed her hand, smiling. "Ready for the next adventure?" he signed. Leora nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. Always. Together, they turned back to the workshop, ready to continue their work, ready to create, ready to show the universe what people who embrace their uniqueness could achieve. And in that moment, Leora realized something powerful. She was exactly who she was meant to be, and the world was ready to see it.